All right, and we are recording. So welcome back to our very last Zoom into Archaeology for 2020. It's over, at least as far as Zoom into Archaeology goes. Looking forward to 2021. We will be continuing our presentations in 2021, so look out for more of those coming your way by signing up for our FPAN Northwest newsletter, which you can do on our website, fpan.us. But again, my name is Nicole Granan. You're here for Zoom into Archaeology, and it is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Jamin Wells from the University of West Florida Department of History. And I'm so excited about this great local history initiative that he's been working on. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Wells. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Nicole, and thank you all for logging in. I'm really excited to share this project with you. I'm part of a team that developed this local, regional, Northern Gulf Coast project that we're calling the Gulf Coast Digital History Project. So if you haven't had a chance to explore it yet, we just officially launched it last week. You can do it now while I'm talking about it, and you can find, just go right to that link down the bottom there, or you have to type it in, but uwf.edu/Gulf History Project. And please check it out and explore. So over the next half hour or so, I'd like to give you a bit of background about the project, kind of walk you through some of the key components, and tell you a little bit about how we built this thing, and show you some of the finds and the documents. And so in some ways, it's quite a fitting project to cap the year off with Zoom into Archaeology, because this is something you can continue to explore from the comfort of a good internet connection. So, and of course, I want to make sure we have plenty of time for your Q&A. So please drop things into the chat, or we'll open it up, of course, at the end here. And I will try to keep an eye on chat, but I'm not too good at it yet. But before beginning, I really need to just note that this was a large collaborative effort. Let's see here. That involved 7 project partners, including FPAN. These are organizations spread out over about 100 miles of the Gulf Coast here. We had over a dozen faculty and staff and students working on this project over the past 3 years. And we had the great support and assistance of the UWF archives and libraries. And without all of this collaboration, all these partnerships, this project wouldn't be what it is today. The initial funding came through a National Maritime Heritage Grant that we received in 2017, as well as additional funding from the University of West Florida. We're so grateful for their supporting of this innovative regional history project. So I think probably the best place to sort of start this discussion is I'd like to show you a brief video that, let's see here, a brief video that we created to introduce the project and kind of explain and explore. And from there, we can talk a little bit more, get into the weeds, so to speak. So let's see here. Okay.
The Gulf Coast Digital History Project is a clearinghouse for Northern Gulf Coast maritime history and heritage resources. It supports research and scholarship by offering thousands of digitized primary sources. This resource is the place to begin exploration of the region's past. The project is designed to be used by teachers, students, researchers, genealogists, and history enthusiasts. Explore the thousands of photographs, maps, and other historic documents digitized from our 6 partner institutions. These documents span centuries and offer unique perspectives on the region's diverse maritime history. To access these sources, click on the Explore Now button under the Gulf South documents. Once in the portal, search the portal using the search box at the top right of the page, or explore the collection from one of our partner institutions, which are shown here. Investigate the daily logs kept by the Pensacola Lighthouse Keeper in the 1880s and 1890s, or study the records of the earliest Destin fishing rodeos in the 1950s. Examine letters and photographs detailing life at the Navy's Gulf Coast bases during the past 2 centuries. Or analyze promotional materials for the region's ports and coastal tourism industries. These are just a few of the primary sources the project offers. Additionally, the portal provides a curated list of scholarly books and articles that support understanding of the region's maritime history and heritage. Access this material from the homepage by navigating to the Read Now button on the project homepage. The evolving list of readings is organized around themes of society, economy, technology, and environment. This source is designed to assist students and new researchers in their study of the northern Gulf Coast. Finally, the portal includes links to dozens of additional resources, including scholarly journals, historical societies, and archives focused on the maritime history and heritage of the northern Gulf Coast. This project is hosted by the University of West Florida and made possible by a grant from the National Park Service.
All right. So I hope that gives a good overview of the kind of range of resources available through this project. And the heart of it was this massive digitization effort where we signed up to digitize 5,000 unique items, and we ended up at the end of the day digitizing over 6,300 items, which collectively totaled about 20 or 25,000 individual items, which was a good bit of work that we did. So I'd like to just kind of walk through the process that we've been that got us to this finished portal and kind of share that experience with you. Let's see. So this project began in a lot of ways out of discussions a number of us had at UWF and FPAN about the wealth of archival materials related to our region's maritime history and heritage, and many of the kind of amazing historical societies and museums and cultural institutions spread out in our region. And the fact that there was no really centralized clearinghouse for students or researchers or folks just interested in learning more about this area, there was no centralized place to explore or even get a sense of the material that was available. So when the opportunity came to apply for this grant, we had this project well in hand to move forward with it. The first organization partner that joined the project was the Gulf Breeze Area Historical Society. This is a small historical society just over a bridge from Pensacola, and they were in the process of sort of reviving their organization, of attempting to create a museum with a donation that came in, and they were very eager to partner with us, and they provided kind of a really fascinating trove of documents related to one of the founders of this city. We brought those materials in and we digitized them, and they kept close tabs on it in the local paper as we went and shared what we had found with them. And it played part of their bigger effort to create a permanent public museum. And they're still working on that as we speak. Part of their collection was this sort of amazing set of letters from World War II, which they wanted to make accessible. And these letters describe both the home front during World War II in this still pretty small, sleepy Gulf Coast town, as well as discussions of service in the Philippines. So we see this back and forth exchange between Mark Benson and his wife, Eloise, which are available on the site right now. Our next,
Jamin,
yep.
so sorry to interrupt. I'm not sure
Okay.
that we can see the correct PowerPoint screen that you're sharing.
Oh, that is a shame. I am so sorry.
Sorry.
No, thank you. I apologize, everyone. Can you see?
Yes, that's the one.
All right.
Perfect.
Well, I'll quickly show you what I was talking about, put those back together. But the Gulf Breeze Area Historical Society was deeded this house, and they were inspired to turn this into a museum. They're keeping track of our efforts to scan the material that they thought would be really valuable to share with their community. And this really was a partner-led effort from the beginning with all our partners. We didn't come in and say, we would like to scan and make these parts of your collection available. We came to them asking, what would you like to share with us? What would you like to make publicly available? What highlights your collections, and what do you want to share? And each of the organizations came back to share that with us. Here's one of the many World War II letters that are part of the collection you can see now. Our next two partners that joined were the Pensacola Lighthouse and Maritime Museum, as well as the Naval Aviation Museum, their library. Both have professionals on staff, and we reached out. They had clear sense of what they wanted to include in this project. For the Lighthouse, it was the keeper logs that span from I believe 1881 to about 1896 or so. So the last 2 decades of the 19th century. And these, excuse me, are fascinating. At some time, at points, it's very crisp and to the point, really traditional, typical maritime writing that you would expect. And in other parts of these logs, there's a pretty robust description of what's going on. It shows us the vital importance of weather, of course, but also the day-to-day routines and unexpected surprises that happened at this really isolated station in the 1880s and right around 1900. So these are a fascinating set. It's not a complete set, but it's pretty close for those years. For the Naval Aviation Museum, they had a really robust collection of photographs. And I think about 700 or 800 photographs were digitized as part of their collection online here. And so it covers a number of naval aviation stations all around the Gulf Coast, from beginning with Pensacola around 1915 up through the 60s and 70s, these images. And there are, of course, the aerial shots and the shots of planes and buildings and officers, but there's a lot of this sort of take on or view into the everyday life of these sailors and airmen, including this image, like in the middle of the 1926 hurricane in Pensacola, as well as, boxing matches and football games and all types of images of sports. And so those are fascinating to explore. And they go down to Key West and a number of stations on the West Coast over to Pensacola as well. So these are fascinating and are really a great contribution to this project. The next partner we have was the Destin History and Fishing Museum, right in Destin, about an hour and a half east of Pensacola, hour east of Pensacola. This was a different experience where the archivist, the executive director, Kathy Marler-Blue, invited us in, really excited to be part of this project. We just launched this project about a week ago, and she participated in a Q&A event that we had, and she really spoke to her interest in participating in this as a museum. But she invited us in to take a look at what they had. And so we saw many of their collections, and she goes, what do you think is good? So this is one of many rooms of these fascinating documents they have. And she told stories about how people come and say, here, I'd like you to have this. And so she gets this material and really documenting the fishing, the recreational industry in this area. So lots of fishing poles too. We got to go into the archives and really look through. We spent a full day there trying to find unique items to bring into this project, and reading lots of letters and lots of photographs. And so we ended up, then we left with documents. And of course I had to stop and get something to eat to see old Destin, as I was told, and the fish it's still the luckiest fishing town. But we brought a box and a couple of ledgers in a manila folder with us here on the top. We brought it into the UWF archives. Like we did with every collection that we brought in-house. We made a careful inventory to keep track of it. It was assigned its own cart in space, and there it stayed. The process of digitizing begins, of course, with this scanning the document. And so we have a number of scanners, so we can scan everything from post-it letters to these big ledgers. And so the image is scanned at a very high resolution. Once it comes onto the computer screen, our digitizers would carefully edit it, make adjustments as necessary to the image. And then the hard work begins of entering metadata. And metadata is all the information, written information about the scan that we did. So topics covered, the type of document that it was, dates, associated names, which institution it's associated with. It's all of this information that is assigned with each document, all 6,400 in the collection. So this is really labor-intensive effort. And like I said, we had about 6 students and interns working on this over the 3 years to not only upload this, but also to check it and make sure that we were following best practices. So here's all the metadata for that image from the 1926 hurricane. This metadata is vital because through the system you can, it's crawled by Google, so you can search Google and this will come up. You can search in the portal search function as well and find what you need. So digitization is a very labor-intensive process. One of the reasons it took us about 3 years to finish this project. Here's part of the team. Again, about a third of all the folks who ended up working on this project here in the library. So ultimately, when we were done, we put everything back as we got it. We made it a rule to send it back, if not in the same shape, in better shape than when we received it. And then for Destin, of course, I got to go back and have another fish platter, which was lovely. Some of the most interesting finds from Destin, if you're in there and exploring, to me are the rodeo catch records, which span about almost a 30-year period, where these are the records for the Destin Fishing Rodeo. And so it gives us the date, the name of the person, their address, the time, the type of fish they caught, the size of the fish, and the name of the boat that they were on. And so there's really just a huge array of types of environmental history, social history, cultural history projects that can come out of this data set. And it's really rich and a lot of fun to see what they were catching and where and when. We also have some great materials related to the early tourism and recreation business that are a whole set of documents about the creation and early existence of the Sailfish Motel, one of the early motels in Destin, which of course now is a tourist mecca. We have a lot more documents in there, and I'm just scratching the surface here. But number of documents from the UWF Historic Trust, as well as the UWF West Florida History Center in the libraries, and you can go in and explore those there. In the trust collection, probably among the more interesting, and there's a lot of great documents in there, are the Mallory manuscripts. The Mallory family was very influential, Key West, as well as Pensacola, national politics, etc. And there's a whole set of letters between all different members of the family in the 1860s and 1870s. So during the Civil War and in its immediate aftermath by a really influential family. And we're just beginning to really go in and read these, and we hope eventually be able to transcribe these and make those transcriptions available. But that's a really rich set of documents. From the UWF, as part of this project, I think the Via Pensacola is it was I think a monthly publication by the Port of Pensacola. We have the full 35-year run that began in 1957, really describing the port in fascinating ways at a time when it was transitioning in a lot of ways. So I hope this kind of gives a sense of the range of documents, gives a sense of what this digitization work is like. And I hope you have seen some of the documents that I think have been probably most interesting, exciting, although there's a lot of gems hidden in there. At 6,300, I think even I've only seen kind of a fraction of them. So we are hoping to expand this project to bring in more partners, to dive deeper into the collections of our partner organizations. So we're looking for new funding, we're exploring new options, which is important. So, and I hope to be able to provide updates on what we are able to add to this resource. I like to hear your questions and discussions, but first, of course, I need to thank our partners. All 7 were really a vital part of this truly collaborative regional effort. And this is the short thank you of all the people who did indeed work on this. So that is what I had prepared generally, but I would love to see if you have any questions. Please use the chat or unmute if you'd like, and I love to hear them. Well, let's see.
So maybe while people are typing, I'll just go ahead and say thank you for introducing us to that the Gulf Coast Digital History Project. That's going to be a fantastic resource for folks working in the area or people who are just curious and want to learn a little bit more about local history.
Yeah, well, thank you for inviting me. Really appreciate to get the word out about this. And I see a question posted. As you expand, is there any particular area that would be high on your list? What was really important to us as we reached out to our partners and we talked about what to include in this initial round of digitization is that we didn't want to duplicate work that's already been done. We want to digitize things that had already been digitized. And there are some really robust and kind of really amazing projects that provide access to documents from the 16th century, 17th century, particularly related to Florida and the Northern Gulf Coast. So we were looking to fill in a gap in a hole, which was particularly in the 19th and 20th century. So right now, it definitely veers towards more recent history. And I think would like to expand the scope of the chronology that is covered here for sure as we move forward, and also the geography. We were working on we want to work with local partners first as we refined our process, as we work how we move the documents around, the digitization process, and work out all the kinks locally. And so it's definitely a project that we would love to expand geographically as well. Right now, it's basically Pensacola to Destin. And so we would love to continue to expand out and bring folks in where they find a value in being a part of this effort. So that's some of the ways we hope to expand, and mostly deal with maritime history. Will you be expanding to rural history? Yeah, so the grant was from in support of maritime history, and so there was an explicit maritime focus on this initial phase. That's part of where the funding came from to support that. But I think you will also find there are a number of rural coastal areas are involved in this, especially Destin in the early 20th century is definitely fits most definitions of rural, but I think maybe even like inland rural areas maybe is a part that could definitely be a part of that. I think I think the project team take a really broad, inclusive understanding of maritime history. And so rivers along, communities along the rivers, which fed the ports, certainly counts as being connected to maritime. And I think most of the counties in this region, for much of them, were maritime oriented in different ways. But as we move forward, and depending how we're able to kind of fund and continue this project, this definitely, it's set up to be more expansive and more inclusive. And it's definitely not designed to be a project where we're preventing people from participating in any way. Because of course, you know, the northern rural communities are integral to the success of the major ports in this area, which would of course be like Pensacola, as well as the smaller fishing ports like Destin and many more that ring the area. So yeah, so I hope that answered your questions. I really appreciate those questions. Folks have asked how they could become part of this effort, and if you are a part of an organization or you work with an organization that might be interested in learning about how we did this or potentially coming on and participating in this, we have my contact information is on the email on the project website. So please reach out. We're happy to share our successes and provide any kind of guidance that you would find useful. So again, we really hope and are looking forward to this expanding and really see this as the pilot beginning of a longer term project.
And Jamin, maybe if you don't mind, if you could type the link from your presentation into the chat box, I think it'll show up as a link there so people can visit directly from the chat box.
I should have done that in the beginning, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I was trying to do it myself, but I forgot what the short link you put up there was. I was just trying to find it.
Let's see here. And so what I can do is, I know that video goes pretty fast, so I think this should show you the project website. Yes. So as you go in, and again, the video kind of shows you that we have 3 core areas, and the heart, what I've been talking about, of course, is whoops, I said the wrong one.
I cleaned it up and put it in the chat box too, I think.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
No,
sorry.
no worries.
Typing and talking. Thank you, Nicole. So the video, we've been talking mostly about the digitization effort and those 6,400 items, which are through this box here. And so these are our different partner organizations. As you go into each one, it goes into the different sets of documents that they have, and you can explore those, you can download them. The citation information is provided as well. We also provide some selected readings, and this is beginning to really grow and adapt of if you want to learn a little bit more about this area, what's the top handful of readings that you should do to begin to understand what these documents mean, how do they relate to broader stories and broader narratives that are both maritime, but regional and even national, and at times international. What are the international connections with these really specific documents we found in these particular institutions? And finally, we have a lot more resources, and this isn't designed to be the end all. It's designed to be a clearinghouse and to pivot, to support research, to provide as many opportunities for diving into this history as possible. And so these additional resources go to not only our partner institutions, but relevant scholarly journals, historical societies that touch on this, and other regional archives who may not necessarily be an explicit partner here, but have material that would be of value to folks interested or studying or researching this. So that said, if you are aware of more, if we've missed one, and I'm sure we did despite our best efforts, it was an honest oversight. And so please email me so we can update that and make sure we want to include as many as possible to, again, facilitate research into our region.
If we have any other questions, feel free to type them in the chat box, or you can also just unmute your microphone if you would rather just ask a question too. It's a little bit faster that way. I've got kind of just a nuts and bolts question for you, Jamin.
Yeah.
You know, for those of us who are interested in kind of digitizing maybe records that we have at home, or, you know, maybe we have some personal things that we would like to put in a digital format, is there a relatively easy way to do that at home? Are you using special equipment to digitize these kinds of records for your project?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and for the equipment we used is specialized equipment to allow us to have very high resolution images, and even the resolution of the images you're able to access via the internet here is kind of a fraction of what we have here in-house. And so the quality is a lot high, is very high. And the software we use is the reason it's embedded in the Florida State Library system. It has backups all over the country, and it's crawled by Google, which is important for this project, which is ultimately not about preserving these documents. It's more about enabling accessibility. But to your question, a decent home scanner, I mean, even with a good cell phone now, you can get the quality, the image quality, to have a great scan of any documents you want to preserve. And there are definitely some free software that's available, but and there's free open source software that's available if you want to get a bit more complicated, but it can be as easy as scanning your documents, providing them with a sound label for home family documents, and then what is key is about preservation and long term is that digital files disappear, USB the USB thumb drives will get lost in a drawer, go through the washing machine or something. So ultimately, if you're able to get it into the cloud, where you know, in Pensacola, we are of course always thinking about hurricanes and things of this nature. So it's protected in case there were to be some damage. It is key. There, of course, are a lot of standards and for a project like that we're doing here. But if you go into even Ancestry or Family Search, they'll provide some great guidelines for how to set this up to do that at home. Excellent. Yeah. So copyright images, copyright on images and other materials. Everything that we scanned, copyright is really a vital component of what we're able to include and what we're not able to include.
Yeah, no.
Oh, that's it. And so almost everything that we included is a non-published source, and those were all owned by the institution that we borrowed them from, and so we signed agreements, and there are copyright notices on relevant images and documents in there to make sure that we were legally able to post this. We don't acquire any of this material. It was loaned to us, and we're putting it up under an agreement. So everything was vetted by our archivists to make sure that it fell within copyright laws. So, and it required on the back end a lot of working with the legal team here at UWF, and then negotiating with the partners to make sure everything was legal and everyone's comfortable with the process. So, but ultimately, everyone was really excited to be able to share these documents and make them accessible. What's most important, of course, is that even though we took a few hundred documents and brought them in from Destin, is that they have thousands of documents there, and a really pretty great, really great interpretations, like all our partners. And so ultimately, I hope that this resource encourages you to see, oh, wow, they have some great stuff, but they have so much more. And so to go to these different institutions, see their archives, see their artifact collections, and just be aware of these resources in our region, and to help raise everyone's visibility. Great.
Any other questions for Jamin? So maybe if someone's typing, I'll just go ahead and kind of close it out a little bit. Thank you again, Dr. Jamin Wells, for joining us today and talking about the Gulf Coast Digital History Project, which sounds like an awesome collaborative thing that you've put together. And it's so exciting to see all of these kind of local institutions working with UWF to do something that's accessible not only to students at UWF, but also to the general public. So it's really a fantastic thing. I want to thank everyone for joining us again today for Zoom into Archaeology. Like I said before, this is our last Zoom into Archaeology for 2020. Thanks to all of you who have joined us throughout the year. It's been a privilege to kind of do this with you and kind of get my weekly interaction this way. We will be continuing Zoom into Archaeology in 2021. We probably will not be doing so in January, because January we're going to take some time to do some planning for the rest of the year. But if you sign up for our newsletter or you follow us on Facebook, you'll see all of the talks that we have scheduled starting in February 2021 there. So thank you all again. Thank you, Dr. Wells. Hope everyone has a wonderful holiday season, and hopefully we'll see you next year.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.